Here we go again. Gather around, kids. Let Casey teach you a little lesson about supply and demand. Now, you're not going to learn about this concept in your courses at Woke U. According to professors at Woke U, by being born into this world, you are entitled to money that you haven't earned. But that's not the way it works in the real world, in reality. For example, there are tens of millions, maybe even hundreds of millions of YouTube channels on this platform. There is a limited amount of ad revenue to go around. YouTube doesn't have an endless pile of cash available to spread across to all creators. So you have hundreds of millions of channels with a limited amount of ad revenue. Which channels are going to receive the most money? Which channels will YouTube dedicate their limited amount of ad revenue to? The channels who are in demand, the channels who are commanding the most views, the most traffic, likes, comments. YouTube's not going to waste their resources placing ads on channels averaging 20 views a video. Advertisers want their campaigns reaching the most eyes possible. If professors at Woke U were running this platform, all channels would receive an equal amount of revenue. The channel with 20 views, they're making the same amount of money as the channel with 20,000 views, meaning everyone would be starving. Everyone is broke. In a capitalist system, you are rewarded based on your value. It's that simple. You're not paid based on your skin color. You're not paid based on how many cucumbers your bongo can take. You're not even paid based on how hard you work. There are a lot of people willing to work hard, but are they providing value? I have no doubt players in the WNBA are dedicated to their craft of pretend basketball. I have no doubt these beautiful bearded women work their asses off. They work hard in practice. They give it their all on the court. Sometimes they are playing so hard in games, the level of play almost reaches JV level basketball. But none of that matters. When it comes to your compensation, the only thing that matters is your value. We are once again seeing a renewed push in the mainstream media to increase the salaries of WNBA dump divers. Clutch Points, the Chicago Sun-Times, the Athletic, the Washington Post, the Gainesville Sun. All of these media outlets have published articles recently imploring the WNBA to increase woke welfare. Now you got to remember, the WNBA just increased woke welfare like 2 years ago. There was no justification for the increase. This increase in woke welfare, it was based solely on sympathy. But like I say on here all the time, sympathy can only take you so far. Eventually, you have to perform. You have to provide value. Now, there are two reasons the media is renewing its push for the WNBA. Number one, we are seeing reports now about the prison conditions for Brittney Griner in Russia. Now, I know we joke around a lot here on the channel about our boy Bob Griner. I know she spent years denigrating and disrespecting the country, but even I can sympathize with the conditions that she's being forced to endure. Rancid food, tyrannical guards who are trying to break you down mentally, extreme isolation. She's going to have to live in these conditions for the next 10 years. That's a harsh punishment for trying to smuggle a little bit of weed into Russia. And number two, there was an explosion in Istanbul, Turkey, Sunday afternoon that took the lives of 6 people and injured something like 81 others. There are 11 WNBA players in Turkey right now being compensated for pretend basketball. Thankfully, none of these women were hurt or even near the explosion. Both of these situations, they have renewed the media push for higher salaries in the WNBA. These women should not be in Turkey to begin with. This is the off-season. They should be spending the off-season at home, resting with their emotional support shovel, or practicing the art of getting their male birthing person pregnant. The media acts like these women are being forced to play overseas. Now, I don't remember anyone forcing Bob Griner to travel to Russia. Do you? I have yet to see the contract that forces woke welfare recipients to travel overseas to represent America. Hell, we already have enough problems with inaccurate representation of America overseas. We have a president who's mentally living on a planet yet to be discovered, and a World Cup soccer team pushing fruity pebbles in Qatar. But have no fear, my almost female identifiers. Have no fear. With this new prioritization clause going into effect, you will no longer be forced to play in the WNBA and play overseas. Now, you'll be given a choice. Accept the woke welfare offered to you here in America or risk your life overseas for increased compensation. The choice, of course, is yours. But in terms of seeing a pay increase in the WNBA, I got some bad news for you. I don't see it happening. Last year, the owner of the New York City Dump, Joe Tsai, he offered 3 years of chartered flight service to the entire league. The other owners turned down the offer. Why? They didn't want the players getting used to chartered flights. This is mythical racism! These evil white men want to keep these female birthing persons down! No, this is simple economics. They didn't want the players getting used to it because they knew long-term chartered flights aren't sustainable. They can't afford it. In the article on Clutch Points, they said, owners who are not willing to increase pay or pay for chartered flights, those owners should have to suffer the consequences. Suffer the consequences? What consequences are we talking about? Should they have to pay a fine? These dumps aren't processing enough trash now to pay for chartered flights. What makes you think they have the discretionary income to pay an unjustified fine? Should they lose draft picks? If you did that, you're taking away the opportunity for some other bum to be given money they haven't earned. In what world does it make sense to punish your employer for not providing you luxuries they can't afford? Should they be forced to forfeit the franchise? Have you ever heard the phrase, don't bite the hand that feeds you? Most owners of WNBA dumps also own NBA teams. You know, teams that actually generate profit. They use the dumps as a tax write-off. Outside of that one benefit, forfeiting a WNBA dump, it would actually be a money saver. As of 2018, when the most recent figures were released publicly, the WNBA loses on average over $10 million every year. 2017 was a really good year for the league. They lost $12 million. The average dump diver collects over $100,000 a year in woke welfare. According to the Gainesville Sun, WNBA players are being undervalued. There are NBA mascots making $600,000 a year. This is bullshit! A trampoline dunking hornet makes 6 times more than these beautiful women who entertain us with their facial hair. I cross-checked that information. It's actually true. There are some NBA mascots making $600,000 a year. But that is a moot point. It doesn't matter. NBA franchises, they can afford to pay it. There is not one dump in the WNBA that has ever generated 1 peso in profit. It would be one thing if ratings and attendance in the WNBA were heading in the right direction. At least then you could somewhat justify an increase in pay. But when talking about WNBA salaries, the mainstream media, they never mention ratings and attendance. Why? I'm about to show you. Check out this graph. It shows attendance figures of the 12 WNBA dumps scattered across America. Now, we can't count 2021. They were limiting dump access that year, trying to protect the rodents from the Fauci. In the last 2 or 3 years, the media has relentlessly promoted pretend basketball. Shitfucks like Nancy Armour at USA Today have tried to convince us that pretend basketball is just as entertaining as real NBA basketball. But for some reason, even with all the free promotion in the mainstream media, these extraordinary birthing persons managed to set record lows in attendance. 2022 was the worst attended season in the history of the WNBA. Now check out ratings for the WNBA Finals, or what the rest of us like to call trash pickup on Monday and Thursday. As you can see, fewer people took their trash to the road in 2022 than they did in 2021. Ratings are going backwards. But KC ratings for the regular season were amazing! It was the most watched WNBA season in 14 years! Yeah, that's true. Now call me a pessimist, call me a skeptic, but I don't like celebrating failure. I don't like celebrating going from nothing to almost nothing. Don Lemon just got moved out of prime time at CNN for averaging 600,000 viewers. In the past, networks like the CW, they have canceled shows for averaging 800,000. This past season, the WNBA averaged 379,000 viewers. Now, that number includes games broadcast on ABC. ABC typically averages between 2-4 million viewers throughout the day. By far, the WNBA is the least watched program on the network, and it ain't even close. But KC, Twitter reported a growth in WNBA conversations on their platform. This league is extremely popular with lonely men. Twitter. You ever wonder why the WNBA doesn't publicly release their streaming numbers? You ever wonder why? We see the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball constantly tout their streaming numbers, especially Major League Baseball since no one's watching on television. But you ever wonder why the WNBA doesn't release theirs? No one is watching. They broadcast games live on Twitter. Over the summer, I checked out a live WNBA broadcast on Twitter. Less than 100 people were watching. So just to summarize here, we have record low attendance, ratings for the WNBA Finals trending in the opposite direction. Regular season ratings are being celebrated in the media. They're really trying to polish that turd. With all this being the case, how can anyone justify an increase in player salaries? I don't know. You tell me. Maybe I'm missing something here. And yes, I know the WNBA was given $75 million in charity welfare, but that's a one-time deal. That is not going to happen every year. So you explain to me where this money will come from to increase salaries in the WNBA. Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys later.